Welcome everybody. Thanks for staying for our talk. I know it's late. Hopefully we can make it spicy and interesting for everyone. So my name's David, founder of X23. I'll give the opportunity for each of the panelists to give a quick introduction of themselves, and then we'll dive straight into questions. Do you want to start, Yitong?
Hello. Well, good to meet everyone. My name is Yitong. Flew in last night at midnight, so it's good to be here. I work on Agora. We do governance software, among other things. You might find us if you voted on Optimism, Uniswap, ENS, a bunch of other places. And I'm excited to be here and chat about trends.
Hey everyone, Faye from SEED Gov. I'm the product guy from the organization. In fact, we do governance, we run nodes, and we also have a huge community in LATAM. So yeah, I'm building Sintra delegate dashboard. Happy to be here.
Hey guys, I'm Varit, known online as Venaru. I'm the founder of Curia, and what we do is we do data governance platform for DAOs, also providing insights into a lot of these governance data. And happy to be here. And I'm based in Bangkok, so I'll welcome you guys here. Yeah, happy to have you here.
You also organize conferences now, which is apparently new.
Actually, this is our first time, so hope you guys like it.
Woo.
And big props to SEED team as well.
Yeah, thank you, SEED team. And I'm David, your host for today. We create AI tooling for DAOs and delegates. And you can go to x23.ai to check that out. All right, so jumping straight in, let's see, what trends are you guys currently seeing from your tools that you've been building? Who wants to start with that? Any particular trends, let's say in the industry?
I will start. Yeah, so we started developing Sintra because of an internal need from SEED Gov. We as delegates, we participate in several DAOs, besides doing operational management and everything. And trying to organize all our operations and standardize our processes. We found ourselves needing a software or a place. We ended up using Notion and also Google Docs and other stuff and other tools. And each ecosystem has different tools. So yeah, we try to build a solution for ourselves, but also for delegates to give them a head start. So that's what we are building, and also talking and people using the platform and getting feedback. We realize that proposals are very important, and especially for delegates that are being compensated, and also calls, something that's time sensitive. So yeah, one of the trends within the platform is, okay, I cannot miss a proposal. If something is about to end, let me know. So focus on that, participating in community calls, in token house calls, so very notifications and everything. That's the only trend that we are seeing, since we are very young still. Maybe you can share your insights.
True. Did you have anything, Varit?
Yes. Yeah, so what we do at Curia is we right now our main primarily product is the governance dashboard, which pretty much have different types of governance data, like to make it easily digestible, increasing the accessibility of these data, including, for example, the delegate actions in terms of like, within specific data, for example, optimism, how many active delegates are there within the ecosystem who frequently votes, and how these voter dynamics changes. And how I started off is that I was engaging as a delegate first and kind of like see the gap. I wanted to know how much my, for example, voting power increases like last month or like within certain periods. I couldn't find that. It's very hard to find that. So I came up with this idea and then go through all the grants, and we got pretty good feedbacks, and like people actually like come and talk. Hey, this is very useful. So we kind of like double down on that and like start contributing, collaborating more of these stuff for other DAOs, and that's how it came to be. And some of the interesting part is that we have seen some of the DAO that, for example, Optimism use our dashboard. What we did is we helped them audit some of the incentives, delegate incentives that they reward after the season, and we kind of help them audit that the criteria that they set, and the result of who gets the funding, who gets the rewards, it's actually accurate, and we help them on that side of things, and we actually found some discrepancy on that side of things, even though a lot of people work on it, but I think it's better to have more eyes, more data, different sorts of data to actually validate like certain these type of data.
Yep, got it. Yitong, what trends have you been seeing from Agora data or Agora usage?
Well, there's sort of like the constructive answer to this, and there's sort of the spicier one. I'll start with the
We
constructive.
can keep it
one.
spicy as well.
Yeah, I'll start with the constructive, and then we can sort of ease our way. The constructive ones, I think they're sort of like I think we started in this world of sort of very like flat governance, where it was like everybody with a token votes on everything. And that's sort of okay, it's like a reasonable place to start. And I think over time we've been seeing a lot of like what Anthony has been mentioning earlier around sort of more granular permissions around things. Like not everybody should be voting on everything with the same amounts of controls, delays, yada yada. So this has been sort of like a general, I think, positive trend that I've been seeing. I think across a lot of the major protocols that we've seen, it's sort of like, hey, like if you want to send somebody $50, shouldn't be the same process as upgrading your protocol, shouldn't be the same process as X and Y and Z. So that's generally been sort of like positive, and I know that sort of like at Agora we have a system for this. Aragon has one too, and I know that Tally has one with sort of OZ, multiple OZ governors. So that's sort of just like a general area that I'm like pretty excited about. Also sort of like delegating some of these decisions to councils, not just ERC20 token holders. So that's been good. Other fun things that are a little bit spicier is just like, I don't know, it's very tough to have a business model in this space, and like it's unfortunate, but it's just kind of true, right? Everybody's trying to like figure it out. So that's kind of like a trend that I'm always paying attention to, is like, what's everybody's charging, and like where are you charging? Are you charging? How are we gonna make the real businesses out of these things? That's always fun. A ongoing trend, I would say, for me.
And that's a good dovetail. If some of you guys have been noticing on the Uniswap DAO forums, Tally, shout out to Cool Horse Scale in the back. Tally, they applied to the Uniswap DAO to get funding, 500K over 2 years. And there was a big discussion on that. And it's interesting because it's like these fundamental tools to DAO governance, like how can we support these tools like through the business models? Like if a tool is asking a DAO for money, like how much questioning or scrutiny should happen, right? So I'm interested to hear from the panel, like how are you guys thinking around your business? Like how do you either make money or support the long-term sustainability of your project? Maybe Varit, you can start.
Sure. For me, I see two distinct paths. Like one is to go through like a public goods route. There's like several like funding mechanisms that actually reward you for building public goods. For example, with Optimism, I mean, it also depends on which DAO you're working with and whether that DAO, what are different types of funding mechanism exist within each DAO. For example, in Optimism, where they did like not just the grant program where you have an idea, you propose for grants, but there's also the retroactive funding model where you actually start delivering values and create impacts for the ecosystem, for the collective, for the DAOs. And then there is this mechanisms who actually compensated you for those impacts you created. That's one. And the other path would be in terms of like more like typical, more kind of like Web2 things, service provider, as you have like this subscription based, you go in and you ask, we're gonna provide your service for a year, and then you get compensated in like monthly or whatever the deal or discussion is. And generally, I think doing this is much harder because it's not like you're not talking to one decision maker. You actually like has to go through DAO vote and all these, a big voter delegate and stuff like that to actually get your deals or like your service passed through. So yeah, it's kind of like different. Yeah, so pretty much that's like the two main, I guess, business model that I'm seeing right now. I mean, from our experience.
And you guys are mainly retro funded, right?
Yes. So
Yeah, retro funded. Okay.
So our first project we received like retro funding from round 3, which pretty much helped us, stay operating and everything. I don't think we're gonna be surviving without these. It really helps us and contributing, driving values for other ecosystem as well, not just optimism.
Yeah. Faye, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. There is like the public good approach and the for-profit approach. The optimism is a good ecosystem because you get grants, and also if you get impact and you like provide value to the DAO, after that you can get a retro PGF, and that like keeps the wheel moving. So I think that's a good model. But yeah, the thing is sustainability. I mean, I don't know where we will be in the next 2 years. Also, the DAO grants programs and the DAO funding allocation also is experimenting. So we will see where it goes. Also, it depends who are your customers. So if you are providing services to the DAO, or you are providing services to the delegates. Yeah, so depending of your B2B or your B2C, you need to go through the DAO, or you need to apply to a grants program. So what if you are a for-profit, if there is a reasonable market, for example, for us, or your customers are, or users are users, we are pretty good, and we will not charge for the application because we wouldn't charge and nobody will pay for this because the market is very very small. But I think it's something that will help onboard more people into DAOs. So it's all about experimentation currently. For longer term planning, I think the optimism approach is good, and the public good is good because the market is still very small, and if you go like privately to a DAO, you need to go through the DAO. You need to propose something. You need to go through a grant. You cannot do some contracts behind doors. So yeah, those are the feedback and the insights.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of triggered this question. So I think there's sort of you have a lot of flexibility depending on your size. There's sort of like if you're like a 1 to 5 person shop, you're burning like maybe 100K to 500K USD at most, like a year. I think there's sort of like 500K is a lot, but like if you're burning like 100K something USD a year, there's sort of like a lot of flexibility. You can be a service provider, you can be grant funded, you can be public good funded. There's sort of like a pretty sweet spot for Ashley. I think this is kind of like a unique space for a lot of people to be swimming around in this sort of like experimental building stuff, kind of like service provision, grant funded. This is sort of like, I think we're pretty lucky to be in a space with so much funding, with sort of people experimenting. And then there's sort of this like no man's land above that, right? Where there's just like, shit, you have a team of like 15 people now? Oh, damn, that's a lot of burn. Like, what is the business model at this no man land zone? It's not clear. I mean, there are people out there who are charging things for real. Like, we're very lucky to be able to charge money for what we do, but it's not clear that we have a really clear, sustainable business model either. I mean, there's a lot of people who have also like large amounts of funding from a lot of these protocol DAOs, but it's a combination of like service for software. It's not super clear if sustainable. Some of these contracts are not really contracts. They're more like streams from a DAO that you don't know if they're going to renew in 2 years. So I don't know. I don't have a really clear answer for this, but it's sort of this like, I think this miasma that sort of like clouds our industry in general, which is that like, like you can have fun with your friends and build projects, and then once you want to be like become really serious, like, oh shit, like what are we actually doing here? Like, where's the business? Is there a business? And like, I'd love to be forever public goods funded, but like, it's not clear to me that these programs even have the sustainability, right, to forever public good fund very many things.
I had something to add. Difference between VC-backed products and non-VC-backed. You can also be like a service provider in the middle of like in a gray area. But if you are VC-backed, you have flexibility because you have more funds, but also you're like on a mission to be sustainable because you also have a responsibility. So that's also a difference if you have VC-backed funding or not. So yeah.
So I guess one takeaway for the audience is to support your DAO tooling, whether through retro voting or through helping them out in DAOs. That's very helpful. So we touched on VC funding and things like that. I have a spicy question. So one thing that I've been told previously was that sort of the tooling that's on this panel, like sort of Agora, our tools, we're sort of the new generation of DAO tooling. There was an older generation of DAO tooling. Let's say, Aragon, Anthony, Kulkowski from Tally, also, maybe some other tools out there, Boardroom as well. What do you guys think what's the new generation of tooling providing that the old generation of tooling is not?
Can I just challenge the premise real quick? I don't think these guys are old. They're sitting right there. Yeah, he's got gray skin.
Old in the sense that they came from the previous DAO cycle, right? And sort of our tooling is sort of coming up from this new cycle, maybe this new renaissance of DAOs. And what's the justification for our existence, basically? Like, why do we exist, and why haven't these older tools done what we already do, right? Who wants to start?
That's quite a spicy question.
You got to keep it spicy. It's also Thailand, so keep it spicy.
At least for me, I guess would be because we do have some features that overlaps in terms of like data, especially for example like Boardroom or just some of like for example Tally, right? They had some analytical stuff that is already on their DAO profile and stuff like that. But we actually think what we did is that we actually put ourselves into the DAO as well. Like I also run a delegate team, and we kind of like see some of the stuff that there's a gap that people in the DAO wanted to know, and we provide that because. Instead of like going really wide and like covering all the DAOs, we focus on particular DAOs that we work with, and we feel our value aligned with the DAO, and we actually, just from participating, we kind of learn and like knows what they really want. For example, like some of the stuff we do for optimism, like because every DAO is not the same, not all DAOs is the same. Like they have their own characteristic, their own parameters in, for example, defining even who is the active delegate. For example, like in like, for example, Arbitrum, they have this criteria on their new delegate incentive program, right? You need like 65% being active on off-chain and off-chain proposals. That is not the case for some of the DAOs I work with, for example, SAFE, where they actually consider if they're not expecting all the delegates to actually vote on every proposal, but rather they would consider you active if you vote in the last 3 sprints. They have their own governance cycles because not all the decisions, they're not expecting like the delegates to vote on everything, and they still consider those active. So these like fine parameters, I think that's what we pretty much are doing well on that in terms of like translating into these tools that is tailor-made for each DAO.
I think the difference is like development and like scalability. They are developing like since some years now. They have the product and they need to distribute it and maintain and establish. They are already established. But for new tools, it's more easy to test, to do some proof of concept. There are some new experiments going on, and you can provide a solution very quickly. For those projects, it's not easy to adapt to the new like trends. And I think something like what Apple does, like they take so long to develop a solution, but when they like release it, it's good. At least maybe it's relative, but something like that. So yeah, we have more flexibility. We are more easy. It's easy to release and launch products and features. So yeah, it's all about learnings, and you see what like goes well, what goes wrong. They take a bit longer, I guess.
Any thoughts to share on this, Yitong?
Well, these guys are just in the room. It's very awkward, right? Yeah, it's not
Keep
like
it spicy. We want to keep it spicy, right?
Here, let me like you asked what's the difference, right? Like I think there's a lot of things that like I think the Aragon teams and the Tally teams do really well. I am very jealous when I heard today that apparently Aragon, you guys haven't updated your core contract in like a year. That's sign of good design right there, right? This is sort of like, oh shit, you guys have to build something modular where you don't have to design redo the contract every couple of months to add new features. Good stuff, good stuff. I know that Tally's been working a lot on their restaking stuff and their staking protocol. That's really exciting too. There's a lot of diffs, between all of our. It might look kind of similar, but I think people have like slightly different but very meaningful bets that like I think differentiates all these platforms. Everybody's doing really good. And y'all keep me up at night for sure, and not in the way that I want, to be frank. Yeah, I lose sleep over this stuff all the time, and I think everybody's doing really good. I don't think that we're competing like new tools versus old tools. Everybody's very competitive and building really great products.
I just wanted to add on that as well. I think generally like, because our space is very, very small in terms of comparing to like other industry, and I feel like we need kind of like more people being on these stuff to actually solve the problems that we had in the space. Having just one people trying to solve, we might not, see things from others' perspective, from like other builders. And I think the stage of our like industry is very early. So, and I feel like, yeah, you need more people solving the problem.
True. I mean, I agree. It's better to make friends in the industry instead of calling them out. But also it's important to have honest conversations as well. I guess keeping it within the panel then. So 3 of us are non-VC funded and 1 is VC funded. Let's talk about that, right? DAO tooling, and what are the conflicts of DAO tooling and being VC funded? Maybe Yitong, I'll let you start. And yeah.
It's you just go at it. Okay. No, we for a very long time we're not VC funded as well, and I think for us it was never about refusing venture funding. Like at Agora, it's always been sort of our ambition to build something really big and meaningful and lasting, and like we have conviction that there is a venture scale outcome here, but we also are not convinced that it's going to play out the same way that a lot of crypto investors want it to play out. The pre-seed, seed, Series A token, like 1 year cliff, bada bim, bada bum, dump on retail. And so it was very important for us to find the right partner to sort of work with, where they were like, oh, okay, maybe there isn't going to be a token here, and that's okay, right? Like when we were fundraising, we were very upfront with our investors. Like there might not be a token. There might be a token. There might not be one. If there isn't one, you have to be okay with it. You also kind of have to be okay with this not potentially taking the sort of 1 year per round and then the token path. So it really narrowed down sort of the range of investors that we could work with. Like a lot of investors have very large funds that only make sense if they invest in token projects that return 1 bill plus tokens. And that's just the fund economics that you have to be aware of. And as long as you're sort of steering clear of those and sort of working with investors who have the flexibility to accommodate a range of outcomes, it is not so bad. But you are signing up for a very large outcome over a very long period of time. Whereas we can no longer just be 3 people and have a good time, just doing services and cool experiments. That is off the table for us now. And that's always been okay with us. We've always sort of knew that that's not the kind of company we wanted to build. But once you do take on the venture funding, you can always buy your investors out and yada yada, but it becomes more complicated. So if you're going to take on venture funding, you just kind of have to know the path that you want to go down.
How about you, Faye? Because we mentioned before about VC funding and not taking the VC funding path. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it depends on your goals, your bets, and if you know very well the market and you know where you want to like go and what's the vision, and your customers or your users. You need to be very sure. It's not a joke to accept VC funding and responsibilities. So it's legal now. The team, the founders, co-founders, it's a total different path. We are okay right now being public good. Also, if a time comes when we spot maybe a product market fit or something that like goes out of proportion, we might considering scaling it up. But at the moment, we are okay. We are flexible. It's a whole different story for VC back funding. You need to ship. You need to get product market fit, and also you need to find a business model, obviously. So not much to add.
Varit?
VC funded, not VC funded. I mean, generally, for me, at least for Curia Lab, we do actually have an investor, but how it happened is more of like they kind of like incubated us, and then they got like some part of our equity, rather than just they invest in us, yada like those kind of stuff. But I feel like having these also investors also had its own benefits and cons. Benefits in terms of like, hey, you kind of like have this accountability or responsibility you need to met in terms of like, hey, you cannot just do whatever you want, like you need to have these, all these plan and like kind of roadmap and stuff that you need to, go through to actually not just like, whatever, and the cons of it would be like could be less flexibility you can do if you already commit that you want to work on these problems. You couldn't just like, hey, I want to shift to AI only now, or nothing related to what we are currently doing. That might be hard. Maybe you need to set up a new company to do that kind of stuff. And and also whether to get funding or not funding, I think it all comes down to do you actually find the product that is product market fit, and you really want to scale. You need the money to actually scale to dominate the market, and you might lose out if you don't scale quickly, stuff like that. So it comes down to whether you have that PMF.
Good points. On the topic of spicy stuff. So the other part of the VC funding, right, is in a world of a tool that gets VC funding, but the VC has a large amount of voting tokens. They can vote your tool in usage if you're selling to the DAOs. So something like Stable Labs, they had a tool that got adopted, and Stable Labs also has a voting has tokens to vote with. I wonder what your thoughts are on like conflicts from the panel, like around this, and how do we as either an industry or as tools like overcome these sort of conflicts that I don't think are talked about enough, right? So how would you,
Are Stable Labs delegations from their VCs? I didn't think so.
Not from their VCs,
Okay.
no. But just like there's a conflict, the potential conflict is that whether it's delegated from VCs or it's your own tokens, should tool providers like ourselves, should we be able to vote for our own tools to be implemented, right?
Well, in my point, it also depends on what are the code of conduct or like the policy that is being upheld within each DAO. For example, certain DAOs might be okay for voting for you, like conflict of interest stuff, but certain DAO is a big no-no, right? And also like we do have some proposals from coming from Curia, even though we always abstain. So more like for us, it's more of like a ethical kind of like thing that we want to uphold as an organization. So we always abstain on that. But I mean, it's not right or wrong. It all depends on like, for me at least, for the policy within each DAO, I would say.
We were talking about this a few moments ago. I think, well, at least in SEED Gov, for example, we also manage the program, the incentives program for delegates. And that's a proposal that we drafted and we got selected. But I think in that case will be very similar. I mean, SEED Gov is not a tool, but it's a thing that benefits us. So in that case, we usually abstain and the community votes. I think when you put yourself out there, it's very easy to be like spotted, or if you are doing something unethical, or if you are being benefits, it's very shady, a shady situation. You just want to be transparent and avoid any type of conflict because your reputation is on it's there. So I think there shouldn't be a problem. Everybody knows everything's transparent, and if they spot and you're doing like edgy things, if you're spotted, you can end up your product.
Yeah, I mean, we're intentionally only very, very small personal delegates in most of the places we work for precisely this reason. I mean, for us also, there's sort of this like, like if your voting platform is voting on a bunch of stuff, like does it delegitimize the voting platform? So we try to just only have like literally a test amount of delegation for ourselves. And I think this sort of like abstain approach is generally how I think it usually should go. Now, there are cases where it's like, I think this might be Stable Lab too, where like there's some people are such a large delegate that they're basically required to vote for anything to pass quorum. And so it's like, is it fair to ask them not to vote on their own proposal, given that they're a large constituent part of the quorum, and if they don't vote, nothing passes? It's a little tricky, so I also understand that there's sometimes like, if you wish that you could abstain, but realistically, if you abstain, things don't pass because they don't reach quorum. It's a little complicated.
Yeah, but maybe you're not reaching quorum, and if you abstain, you are being like it's going to pass or it's going not to pass, but it just gets like the proposal past the quorum thanks to your vote. So in that situation, abstaining is the key component of the.
Not every DAO calculates abstain towards quorum.
Right.
That's what.
It
The
depends
nerds.
Sometimes
how you
Sometimes
count
they
the-
do. Yeah. The governor nerds here are like, yeah, but it doesn't always count.
Maybe something for Agora to standardize, right?
Not so long ago, I saw a situation where the quorum was reached just because somebody abstained. So in that situation, abstaining is not the solution. Or well, it depends. It's not. It's a gray area.
We have this very weird definition of quorum, right? This is sort of like how quorum is defined on governors. It's just not the English definition that anybody understands. In my head, it's like if you show up, you vote no, it should still count towards quorum. But it's just like not the case for a lot of governors. It just depends.
All right. So we got a few more minutes. Let's look towards the future of DAOs now. And what are some future, like what are you, each of you, designing in your tools to get ready for the future of DAOs? Like give us a vision of your future that you're building for. Who wants to start? Anyone?
A sustainable business model for everyone. Woo! Woo!
That is a dream. Yep.
I can go first. I mean, the future of. I think I would bet on like DAO becoming more integral in like other things beyond just crypto. Like I feel like right now it's more governing like protocols, governing stuff that is more Web3 deep stuff. All those protocols, all those blockchains. But I would really want to see in the future that these kind of model decentralized organizations and how we coordinate people across the at scale could be used in other contexts, not just crypto space. And I really hope that we reach that point. I know it's like quite a huge gap in terms of like the UX kind of thing, like, and also like learning, like people need to learn. It's very hard to onboard people. These are all like nerdy stuff that we all do, right? And sometimes it's not that easy to get in from like everyday people to understand the concepts and everything. And I think I hope at least in the future, these things people just actually don't think about it, but like got involved and like more like the infrastructure is running and operating and like serve people, allows people to coordinate and successfully do like achieve like a goal to work towards the same goal, the same mission. Yeah.
Got it.
I like the approach of like different DAOs, not just protocols, DeFi protocols or blockchains. It's interesting. Well, you need a token, but yeah, you can bypass that. I don't know. But yeah, I think you have the DAO experimentation, like the DAO future, and then problems, and then needs, and then the tooling for that, like betting future. So in my case, I think maybe professionalization of the DAOs, more councils, new types of delegates or non-delegates. I don't know. We will see how it goes. Each DAO is experimenting, and in the experimentation, you get different needs that maybe the current solutions are not solving. So yeah, and maybe like I would really like discourse alternative being adopted. Also, I'm like everyone uses discourse and the forums. But yeah, I think it depends. But maybe professionalization and experimentation within the delegates and councils and committees. That would be interesting.
I get a non-facetious answer, I guess. I don't know. Future of what was the question? Future of DAOs? Wishes for the future of DAOs?
Yeah. What future are you building towards?
I'm hoping that there's a world where we like vote a little less and vote a little better. It's like I think a lot of things today are sort of these like general referendums where everybody gets to like wave their pitchforks. And so I'm hoping for a world where it's sort of like a little bit like we know the kind of decisions that we have to make, the right people who should be making these decisions, whether from an expertise, conflict of interest, alignment of interest perspective, and like people are voting in like smaller groups with more informed context. And so we're sort of like doing more decisions and better decisions with less general thousands of people, many of whom are farming the next airdrop, voting on everything. That'd be nice, right? Just better decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have time for questions? One question. Okay, so we have time for one question in the back there.
Hey, I was just kind of wondering, like a broad question about maybe like how you look at open source and how that like contributes to your business model. I'm sure that's maybe a discussion you had on like the VC funding and not from that, and maybe like for other projects looking at that, like what are some things to consider on like how to build a business model with open source?
That's a good question.
I think Yitong, because you're bidding open source, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, we're Agora is open source in a little bit of a strange way. Like all of our code is open and it's MIT licensed, but we haven't had a lot of time to make things very easy to contribute to. We have had in our entire history like 2 other external contributions. We also are just joined, I don't know if Mike's still in the room, but like this Open Zeppelin working group to push OZ Governor forward. Agora Governor itself is a fork of OZ Governor, right? So we're sort of this like deeply entangled in the open source world, and that's I think for the best, honestly. And the cool thing about working in this space is like I don't know, I think a lot of Curia is probably also open source, but it's like a lot of like foundations and DAOs require you to be open source. Frankly, they really want to see like not because they want to contribute and they want to fork, but because they want to see what's going on, right? And so we're kind of like lucky and unlucky that we don't always have a choice on this. And if we're going to be open source, I think leaning into it is actually the right call. And yeah, I don't know. Open standards advance everything, right? This is sort of like one thing that we've benefited a lot from and would love to contribute to. As for how it meshes with VC funding, I don't really think it's contradictory. Most of the most valuable companies in this space are completely open source. Some of them have weird licenses, but most of the time they're 99% open source, and it has done nothing to diminish the value of all of these things. In fact, it's kind of cool it's a cool thing about crypto, right? That you can build valuable networks on top of open source software that is forkable, but hopefully nobody is incentivized to fork. I don't think we're there yet. I don't know if anybody in the DAO tooling space is there yet, but that's the dream.
Any other thoughts on open source?
100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it don't diminish value or the value that you can like accrue. So if you're open source and your product gets used and adds value to the people, and yeah, you have users, and you are building a better product than other one. They need you need that's the moat thing. You need to build your moat, and if you have that, you're open source. I mean, it can a lot of great products are open source, so it will not affect.
Yeah, I guess I believe some of the DAOs we work with, we pretty much have no choice. Like they kind of require you to be open source.
There's one out there that puts it in the contract.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like some of the things. I mean, like sometimes, for example, for in terms of Curia, like the open source side of things is sometimes is not applicable in everything like we do. In terms of like, hey, for example, we are building this database. We need to query data from all sorts of places, and do we open source our cloud? Or, I'm not sure how you do it, but there's only certain part that is possible to open source. For example, front end, or like
the data layer is the most valuable part of like Curia, right? And it's like, how do you even begin to open source this stuff? It's like quite tough.
Yeah, and I mean, we can open source how we calculate this kind of thing, like, yeah. But at the end of the day, sometimes there's just too many parts, to like it's complex, and yeah, I guess that would be it.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you everyone for coming to this panel.
Thank you.
Give a nice hand.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Andrew, for moderation. Curia for helping us to organize the event.